Hey everybody, it's Brian and welcome to episode 3 of Behind the Biker with my special guest Kidmoto22. Kid, why don't you tell them about yourself, sir?
Well, I don't know what you want to know, man. Let me see.
What's your sign? Do you enjoy long walks down the beach?
Yes, that's all true. It's all
That's
true.
all true.
Yep. So my name's Ryan.
Broadway shows, no?
Yes, also Broadway shows. I do enjoy those. So I go by Kidmoto22 on Instagram and YouTube. My name's Ryan, and I ride a 2017 Roadking Special. And I would call myself a content creator because in addition to being on Instagram and YouTube, I'm also one of the 5 members of the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast.
Excellent. Now you didn't talk about your bike. It's got a nickname. It's special. Come on.
I do. Yep. So my bike was not named by me. I have to give full credit to my friend Dustin. He named my bike, so we call it the King of the North. And for those of you that don't know, I live in North Dakota. It's very cold here, so we always say I live beyond the wall. A little bit of a little bit of a reference there, but for sure it's we're actually supposed to be getting our first blizzard of the season this year, so we have 50-mile-an-hour winds and 2 to 5 inches of snow coming tonight. So it's our first winter is upon us here for sure. So
wait, so we somehow beat you to snow in New Jersey? Because
absolutely, man, inches. Absolutely, we've
had
a crazy mild winter. I mean, we've only had one day this winter for us that we've had below 0 temperatures. It's been really mild, very mild. Nice. So it's been and for us, typically like the last few years, winter has started right around Halloween. And so when it snows around Halloween and it stays until the end of March, beginning of April, it makes for a very long winter. So the fact that I can still see grass in my front yard and backyard. The fact that we've got that right now is great. It's going to make, winter's only going to be 2.5 months this year, which is awesome.
Nice. That's fantastic. Awesome. So I know you come from a big Harley-Davidson family. So when did you start riding? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know you were a kid, obviously, but do you remember that? Was it black and white, that memory? Or?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't think it was. I think the whole world was in black and white then. Yeah, it was right. Yep. Film was still on film on reel strips. Yep, for sure. That was true, a true thing. No, I grew up. The first bike I was ever on was a Harley-Davidson. And I grew up on the back of Harleys in the 80s. My first time on a bike, I bet it was 8, and they didn't make helmets for kids back then, so it was an adult-sized helmet that was, like all floppy on my head and that kind of stuff. I wore a half. Like it had a full shell on the back and it had just a face shield that came down to my chin. That's kind of what I wore. I never graduated to a full-size helmet when I was a kid. So yeah, I was probably 8 years old and I rode tons of miles. We did toy runs and week-long camping trips. My mom's husband at the time had probably an 85 or an 86 fxrt that he bought brand new. And for anybody that knows, the FXRs are kind of a commodity in the motorcycle community. And it was an amazing bike to kind of grow up on. So I rode on the back of 2 different Harleys. So I kind of cut my cloth in that time as a passenger. And so probably rode, I would say between 4 years probably that I had ridden as a passenger. And then I was out of motorcycling until my 30s. And then I got back into it as a rider in my 30s. And so there was no MSF course or transition for me. I just bought a bike and started riding because I had, kind of that background and that experience from when I was a kid. I mean, the shifting, clutching, none of that. It just came to me naturally because I wouldn't say, I'm not trying to be arrogant because that's not at all true.
You ride a Harley. It's totally okay to be arrogant. It's in the rule book.
But for me, I didn't take the MSF course. I rode BMX a little bit when I was a kid and was on mountain bikes and had a lot of mountain biking experience and trail riding and that kind of stuff. And so I drove a manual transmission car for a while. So the idea of shifting, clutching, all of that stuff at the same time was not foreign to me. I knew how to do that already. So that really wasn't an issue, and I learned how to ride. So my first bike that I purchased was a Kawasaki Vulcan, and I believe it was a 2005. I think 2005 Kawasaki Vulcan was the first bike that I ever owned. And I rode that for a few years, probably, I want to say, maybe 7 years I had that bike. And I never really took that bike on any long distance trips or did any, I really just used that for commuting and riding around town. I took a trip, probably the longest I ever rode it was 200 miles in a day. And I had that bike for, like I said, about 7 years. And then my wife and I were in a little bit of a transition time in our life, and I sold it and we got new carpet for our house or something like that. And my wife said to me, I promise that someday I'll let you buy a bike again. And so the next time when I was ready to buy a bike, I bought a 1200 Sportster. I bought a Nightster. It was a 2009 Nightster. And after I bought that bike, I knew that that I would probably be on a Harley for the rest of my life, or at least for as long as I could ride.
That's fair.
It's just what, for me, that's what I connected to. That's where what I grew up riding. I don't disparage anybody else that rides any other kind of bike. It's just, for me, though the Harley has a soul, and I knew that's just kind of what I wanted to ride and where I felt like I belonged. I knew I was going to be in the cruiser market. If you know anything about a Kawasaki Vulcan, it's a cruiser. So I knew I wasn't going to be a sport bike guy. I knew I wasn't going to be an ADV or, that kind of thing. While now the way that I ride and what I do, that the idea of it appeals to me. I'm a cruiser guy at heart. And so I still like to do, I don't know about off-roading, but I think like the kind of like the camping and the, the outdoorsy portion of the ADV riding is what appeals to me more than actually maybe riding off-road. But yeah, I really do like that. I was even away from camping for more than 20 years, and I got back into that too, and have really embraced that portion too. So I like to travel long distance on my bike. That's kind of my jam. I'm not really a bar hopper kind of guy. Again, I don't disparage those people that do that. I think there's room for that, obviously, in the motorcycle industry, for the weekend warriors, that kind of stuff. I ride as much as I can. I use my bike for commuting in the summertime. Pretty much as soon as the snow melts, I'll ride as much as I can. So I'll ride to work and back every day, and then I like to go on long trips. So really, the long trips are kind of my jam. That's what I enjoy the most about motorcycling. And I've done that 2-up. So I've done that with my wife, and I've done it solo, and I've done it with other riders. So I've kind of done that long distance riding all three ways. And I would have to say that I don't know that I enjoy any one more than the other right now. I haven't,
That's fair.
I think there is benefits and drawbacks to each one of those things that is unique. Like if I riding 2-up, for instance, is that your bike is obviously laden down differently, and so it's a little bit more difficult to maneuver and handle, and slow maneuvers are different and that kind of stuff. When you're traveling solo, you're completely on your own. So, the advantages to that is you get to do things exactly on your time. If it's time to stop, you stop. If you want to pee, you want to rest, you want to eat, whatever, it's 100% on your time. But then you're not sharing that experience with anybody. And if you have any problems, it's 100% on you to solve it. Right. So if you have a breakdown, there's no one there to drive to the next gas stop and get you help. You're stuck figuring it out yourself. And then, the other part is riding with people. You get to experience that ride with someone else. So not only do you experience that ride through someone else's eyes, but you experience it through your own. But then you're burdened by the decision-making of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Or maybe you're ready to stop or they're not ready to stop. And so there's kind of all of that. So I think the most important thing when you're running a group of guys is that just to be transparent about your riding. You know what I mean? Like if you need a break, you just need to say, "Hey, I need to stop. Like I need a break or whatever," or that kind of stuff. And I've found that to be the easiest way to handle it.
Well, you mentioned about the Harley, not to interrupt you, but what do you think that, because I've experienced this in having metric bikes, my whole riding career, if you will. What is it about the Harley that's different to you? Because I've talked to so many people and everyone says the same thing. It has this soul, it has this feel, everyone finds a little something different, but it's so unique, it seems like.
I would say that, like, if I were to compare riding my Kawasaki Vulcan to riding my Sportster, because the Kawasaki Vulcan was an 805 cc, so the Sportster was 1200. The riding the Kawasaki was fun because I was riding a motorcycle. Riding the Sportster was visceral and made the hair on my arm stand up.
That's fair.
So it was what I think that I like about it is that the Harley is much less refined than their metric counterparts, right? So they're noisy and they shake and they rattle and they vibrate and they have a soul. You feel like you're on, you're kind of more in tune with your motorcycle, where many of the metric bikes are. They are engineered differently to where they're just smooth. The shifting is easier. The engine doesn't move. It doesn't, like you can ride a Harley. I would do this with my Sportster all the time. You'd stand beside it and you crack the throttle and the engine would shake, right? Or get up to an intersection. I know you have a V twin, right? Or you have a twin cam. Yeah, you have a 103. You have a twin cam. So when you get up to an intersection, do your mirrors kind of vibrate a little bit? Like, you can't really look in them when you're sitting in an intersection?
They vibrate, but they don't vibrate as much as some of them. I've seen that. I've actually seen it on some of the M8s that aren't tuned right, where like everything goes completely wonky.
Yeah, my Sportster.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, my Sportster at an intersection, the mirrors would vibrate and you couldn't even see, you couldn't see in them. But then when I got up to speed, everything smooths out, right? And so that's kind of how I would explain it to be, is that.
Oh, we lost your video, sir.
Lost my video. What happened there? I don't know why that. There we go. I would explain that to be a much more visceral experience. It's just it is something to me that it just spoke to me. Now, again, I would caution people and say that can happen on any bike. You know what I mean? I think it just depends on the kind of person you are. I think the reason why it spoke to me is it tapped into something that happened to me when I was very young, which was when I fell in love with motorcycling, right? So you kind of tap into those feelings of when you were young and what it felt like. And the first time I rode a motorcycle and the first time I, experienced motorcycle camping. And so I tap into all of those things every time I still do them. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, is why it feels that way for me. But again, I know it's not like that for everybody. And some people get that very same feeling riding any kind of bike. Riding a scooter can give you that feeling, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's unique to that particular bike.
Because I think that there's a thing too with the Harley where it's just so ingrained in our society, in American society. And, it certainly was with the boomers. It certainly is with the Gen Xers, where it just became a cultural thing. It's like, I'm trying to think of something to compare it to, but it's kind of motorcycles. Sort of everyone thinks of Harley when they think of it. It just has a certain sound that has a certain feel to it. But to your point, my Suzuki was just as good as a bike in its own sense. It just had a different heart and soul, the same way that my KLR had a completely different soul to it. Talk about something that would shake the teeth out of your head.
I think the other part that I found interesting is that there is inherently a community aspect, I think, to riding Harleys that's unique to Harley-Davidson that I don't think really exists in other factions of motorcycling. As an example, ADV riders are, probably more loners than they are pack animals. You don't see 20 ADV riders going down the road at one time. You might see one or two. Yep. I'm sorry. You might see, two riding together, but I've never seen 5 ADV bikes going down the road at one time. I've seen two. That's about the most I've ever seen. But for the most part, you can see a fully loaded, cracked out ADV bike going down the road with a guy in their spacesuit and everything else on, and they're by themselves, And so I think that's the other part, is that there's just a unique community aspect to Harley-Davidson that doesn't exist in that same way that exists everywhere else.
That's fair.
Now, so again, that's my perspective. That doesn't mean that's not my truth. That's my truth in my perspective. It's not fact.
No, and I think that the fact that as you said, every bike that I've owned, including my scooters, all had a personality. They all had something to them. It's just everything, like you said, is different. And it does seem to be especially with the Harley bikes, and maybe it's because of the hog chapters and stuff, but it does seem to be more of a communal thing. Well, custom dynamics. Yeah, boy.
My custom dynamics, QZ.
You got to get that strobe.
Mm-hmm.
Mike won the contest, man. That's Mike. I told him, I said, unfortunately, that $500 gift card's just a down payment. They keep coming out with
it depends on how he wants to go. I mean, he can get a pretty bomb headlight for that, or he can,
that's what I want.
He could get LEDs all the way around. That
absolutely.
Their multi-directional headlights are fantastic.
You keep and there's something just for being seen, that's for damn sure. So what was the reason that you started your YouTube channel? Because I don't remember. Your YouTube channel is what, about 2 years old?
It's close to 2 years old. It'll be 2 years old in I want to say April or May. Might be May. It'll be 2 years old. I had been watching YouTube creators for a while. Probably about, let me rephrase that. I'd been watching motorcycle YouTube creators for probably about a year and a half prior to me doing it. And after watching a few channels and just getting some inspiration, I thought, this is something I could do, and it could bring a different aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I did it, probably it was maybe my 4th or 5th video I put out, I realized that really what I was doing was I was time stamping this time in my life that is going to live on beyond me, that, my kids will be able to look back on it and see, through any of the content creation that I'm doing, whether or not Instagram lives that long or YouTube lives that long, all of these things are out there. And, if they're out there and available on the internet, they're going to live on well beyond me. And so I'm kind of really documenting this period of time in my life of motorcycling for me. And I really enjoy it, and I don't see an end to it anytime soon, unless they make it impossible to continue on or whatever. I'm really liking doing it a lot. And so I think the motivation for me was more about, I had watched creators and I thought, hey, I could do this and this might be fun. And then very early on, I realized what it was doing for me in terms of documenting that time. And then as soon as you kind of start to get a following or people start to follow you on your channel, when they hit the like button and subscribe button and all that, you start to build your own community of people around what you're doing. And that's probably one of the most rewarding things about it, is that you begin to interact with people that you normally would have never met, been in touch with, talked to, been in contact with. And the same thing goes when you're not a creator and you're just on YouTube and you interact with people that are making content and they interact back with you. All of a sudden, there's that aha moment where you're like, oh, wow, like this person contacted me back. And then that can grow into other things, which it has in other aspects, and we can talk about that later. For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I think it's really interesting too that you would think as YouTube is sort of competitive, I find that it's interesting that everybody's so open with their experience. There's no, I think the creative process, like back when I did photography professionally, was fun because but it was divided. You would get people that would tell you anything because they just didn't care. And there was people that had that very fragile ego where everything was very sensitive. But I think that that's the interesting part about the YouTube community is that everybody's open to sharing that for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's because, as a whole idea, YouTube is basically there for two reasons: to educate or entertain. And anything else doesn't get views. So if it doesn't fall into one of those two categories, it's not being consumed as information. So if your content falls into the entertainment category or the education category or both, you're gonna get views. And I think what happens is that you kind of start to hone in on what you like and then what people are interested in that you're doing. And I think that's where it becomes interesting. And for me, it's only enhanced my experience on a motorcycle because it's kind of opened up this doorway to all these other experiences and other people that in my small community, I really wouldn't have never, ever had contact with. And so for me, it's really great too, because I live in a part of the country that it takes a while for things to get to, right? So when you're in the middle of the country, especially in the north part of the middle of the country, and what I mean a while to get to is it takes a long time for clothing styles to get to the middle of the country. So when people are doing cool stuff in other areas of the country, it takes a while for that cool stuff to get here. And by the time it does, it's already old news. And
Gotcha.
So it opens up, Kenny and I have talked about it. If you look at my style of bike is not, it's a very popular style of bike across the country. If you look at my style of bike right here in our demographic, no one has a bike that looks like mine. No one.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because I like that style and that's how I like to ride. And it kind of fits all those things. But the quote unquote performance bagger or that look or style or whatever is popular all over the country. It's just not that popular here. People here are still riding ape hangers and that kind of stuff, which is, again, there's a time and there's a place for that. That's just not what I like.
Yeah. It's interesting how motorcycles, because you came from that whole California scene, which is totally a different scene than, because if I remember correctly, there's a picture of you that on a bike that looks a lot like the Laidlaw Coastal Glide, isn't there?
Yeah, that's the FXRT that I grew up on. And those bikes, that specific style of bike, they're highly coveted right now. They're considered, Harley made those as a direct competitor to all of the quote unquote Jap bikes that were produced in the 80s that were all performance based. That was Harley's stab at the performance market is really what they were. And the traditionalists that had shovel heads and all that stuff back in the day, they hated these bikes. They absolutely hated them. They were universally hated when they came out. They were hated for a long time. Harley stopped making them in the 90s. They went all the way to the mid 90s, the FXRs did. But right now they're highly coveted as the best performing Harleys that Harley has. Yeah. My mom's husband bought one right off of the showroom floor. I mean, and then he had it custom painted and we added a sidecar to it. And that's
what I was forgetting, the sidecar. I forgot about that.
Yeah. That bike right now, if you would take that bike right now, it's worth probably 10 times what he paid for it back in the 80s, at least 10 times. So, I mean, it's, and if you look at what I'm wearing in those pictures, I mean, I have like bell bottom pants on and, it is definitely the early, mid 80s in Southern California at that time. So, but yeah, that you're right. That bike looks exactly like the Coast Glide.
I think that's such a sweet look. And it's interesting. And I just made the connection about that the road glides are becoming more popular, which is similar to that style. It's a bigger bike, but it
Yeah.
still has that fixed fairing, which I think is just the incredible. I love that
Yep.
look.
Yep. Yep.
It's a fantastic look. So, all right, live count. Where are we at? We're at 9. What are you at? You're right at
942. 942.
942. Okay. So
Yep.
December 22nd. When are we cracking 1,000K? What's the goal? End of the year?
I would like to be the end of the year. I think it's unrealistic.
Okay.
I think maybe the end of January at this point. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of support in this last week from the moto community. I kind of posted my kind of what my count was, and yourself and a bunch of people kind of reposted it for me and got me probably 10 or 11 new subs, which was amazingly awesome that everyone did that, or the people that did do that. But yeah, it seems like I've had a couple of kind of boosts in the time that I've been a creator that have done it, but otherwise it's been a really slow roll. I mean, I'm on that kind of anywhere from 20 to 50 subs every 28 days, but usually it's more around that 30 sub mark about every 28 days. So that puts you at a pretty slow roll. But I think what I found is that I have a fairly good engaged audience at that mark. So, I get, usually around 30 comments per video, which feels pretty good for the number of subs that I have. But when you look at my video count, which just is at 60 right now. So I have 60 videos out and 900 subs. That's really good. So I have a low video count for a high number of subs. So that's really good. And I have, I would say I have 12 videos that are performing very well.
It's awesome.
One video that's at 13K or something like that. But the rest I have, again, I probably have 11 of them that are over 1,000, some 5,000, 6,000. So I have a few videos that have hit and done pretty well for me, and that's hit for a small motovlogger, I would say. I have not gotten anything that's gotten, 30, 40, 50,000. But for a small channel with 60 videos, I have nothing to complain about. And really, I said it before and I stand behind it. It's really been about the community that's being built around it. And really, and we can touch on this again later on. There's a bigger community that we're reaching and touching right now that is very important to me. So
do you see, and we've talked about this, I think 1,000 is sort of the milestone, right? You hit 1,000, you can monetize, you become more legitimate, for lack of a better word. Do you see that changing your channel any? Do you want to use that to sort of steamroll into other things?
No, I think for me, I've always used each season as a time to change. So as an example, my first season was very traditional starter motovlog, one camera on the front of my helmet, one POV view. And then I used my GoPro for my install videos. I used the GoPro mic. I really didn't. I kind of did budget motovlogging and budget installs as best as I could. And by budget, just, camera. Well, for season 2, I added a camera that gave me the second view, which was the very stereotypical mounted on your handlebars and point it back at your face so people can see you talking. And I talk with my hands, obviously. So I do that on my bike too. So they see, the view forward and the view back. And then as I started my travel videos, and if anybody's watched any of my last 2 videos I put out of my Badlands series,
which are fantastic. I can't say enough about them.
I very much appreciate that. I mounted that camera on the back of my bike to then give the group ride feel, because I really wanted to highlight my friends that came with me on the ride, Kenny and Jason and Todd, and then later on in the trip, Jay Sherman, because these guys were really integral into me having a great time on that vacation. And so I wanted to be able to highlight what it was like to do the same ride, but you saw what it was like to be riding with people with me. And so, and you got a different view of the scenery that way. And it just added that, added that really more realistic, that there was something happening, that it wasn't just, as the person watching the video, that I wasn't putting on a show, that I was taking you with me. Because you could see that there was other people. We were on a trip, and then I was taking people with me and taking the audience with me. And so that's what I brought for season 2. Season 3 coming up. I've already kind of starting filming my season 3 content creation. And so, as you know, but my audience doesn't know yet, I posted this on my Instagram. I upped my game a little bit. So I have some background lighting, and I have a new camera. So I have a Canon M50 with some kit lenses and some lenses I've added onto that. And I'll have more lenses coming. That's going to be things that I use to take better pictures of my bike, better pictures at events, better pictures when I'm vacationing and riding. And then I will also be using that for a lot of my, I'll move away from the GoPro. The GoPro will truly be my action camera. And this camera will be my vlogging camera, will be my install camera. I will use lighting for installs. I'm just I want to grow. And for me, it's more about learning my craft better than it is about gaining more audience. I want to be able to grow and learn and create more. And so you might see that in some of my edits. I might throw in some different tricks that I've done before. I might use different music. I might use different effects. And I'm just trying things to try to grow and learn and be better at my craft. I'm not necessarily doing it for, to be 100,000 subscriber channel. I would be, I would certainly, do that, but I'm more about the community interaction, the community that's being built around it, than I am necessarily having, 100,000 followers. Now, if that happens, I'm certainly going to go with it. But, I'm really more about, what's being built in the community that's being built around it. I think that one of the things that's become very evident to me in this last year of riding is, there's been a lot of information put out on YouTube about complaining about Harley-Davidson as a corporation or a company. There's been a lot of content put out about less riders and less people buying bikes and all these kind of things. And I started to kind of reflect on all of that. And I said, you know what? It's our turn to step up, right, Brian? In our age group, it's our turn. You know what I mean?
We're the new people, boomers. We're coming.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Gen X is the new boomers, right? It's our turn. It's our responsibility. And so what are we going to do to shape the next generation of riders? Where is our responsibility now? We need to stop complaining about what's happening and start doing something to make a change. And we can talk about that a little bit further later on when we talk about the community.
I think too, it's, and not to go down the rabbit hole, but it's kind of like the ATV bike, right? And I at face value, it's like, well, it'll never work. And then the rumored price drops, and you're like, all right, it could work. But unfortunately with the internet, you have so much information coming at you that it's very easy to jump the shark.
Well, that bike could be $5,000 and people are going to bitch, and it could be $30,000 and people are going to bitch. There's no way around it, right? I mean, that's the nature of the beast. But I'm more speaking of the community as a whole, and where our responsibility lies as motorcycle riders. Like, what are we going to do to make new riders? What are we going to do to grow the community? Because that's where we are. We are the next generation of leaders. As much as we don't want to admit it anymore, or as much as we've been kind of shying away from that, that's where we are now. We are the next generation of leaders. And so it's time for us to step up and stop bitching and start doing something.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's, and like you said, we can speak to that, is that it's very easy to just take the grumpy old man approach and say, well, you don't like the way things are going, but it's very hard to change that. There's so much that can be done. And I think that YouTube has made phenomenal impact with that. You see now branding, accessories, bikes, one person gets something, and the next thing you know, it becomes popular because it's just, and it's organic because people see it. It's not like it's, it's a different form of marketing.
Well, and let's be honest, as male motorcycle riders, we are not the best teachers for females. And what I view YouTube as, especially for a female rider, is that vehicle for them to see other females doing cool shit on motorcycles. And they see that it's accessible, it can be done, it's less threatening. It's less like, oh, I want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, but I can only do it with my husband, right? Or my boyfriend or whatever. They see other women doing it together like men have been doing forever. And so it opens up this avenue that is, that's just much more accessible. And I think that's the biggest thing, because anybody that's a new rider that's gone by themselves to buy a motorcycle realizes that experience is more terrifying than buying a car or buying a house.
Yep.
It is crazy, scary, and intimidating to walk into a motorcycle dealership to buy a bike, because as soon as you walk through that door, you feel like everybody in there is judging you for one reason or another. You're not a rider. You're not good enough. You don't have experience. You don't know what you're doing. You don't belong there. You're not a part of the community. Whatever it is, it's crazy intimidating. And I found that feeling in both a Harley dealership and a metric dealership. I don't think
absolutely.
It matters. And
no,
so
it doesn't.
Yeah. And so but it's funny because once you get in a community of riders, of people, there's no better place to be. There's no more support. There's not a place that you can find in any hobby that I've ever been involved with that people will literally pick you up and carry you when you're down. Yeah. Not just help you, they will carry you to where you need to be. Your bike breaks down, someone will come and pick you up, put your bike on a trailer, bring it to their shop, fix your bike, and get you on the road. And a lot of times, all they want you to do is say thank you and shake their hand.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I noticed, at least with and maybe it's more of the branding culture of it, but I can't tell you how many times we've gone out and next thing you know, you have people sitting at your table because they ride too, because they saw your shirt or your hat or, and they just want to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community.
It's a real thing. But I stand by this. It's an amazing community, but it's really, really hard to open up that door and put yourself out there. But if you do make that step and you put yourself out there, you have to find your people, because there's niches in the motorcycling community too. But if you find your people, stay there, because like I said, they will pick you up and carry you when you need them to.
No, absolutely. Because we all started out where you feel like you're a fraud. You feel like you're pretending. Yeah. You feel like you're playing motorcyclist. And then the next thing you know, you're part of that active community.
Right.
And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long at all once you find that stride.
Right. And I mean, we've all done it, right? We've all bought our bike and then bought all the pirate gear and gotten all dressed up and went outside and felt like a fucking moron, right? Every single one of us has done it. And it takes a while to get comfortable in that skin before you're like, okay, do I want to dress like a pirate, or do I want to have some pirate gear and some functional gear, or some, you know what I mean? You have to like grow into that. And I mean, I've done it. Even for me, I was talking to somebody on our Discord, 5 Dirty Bikers Discord, that I've bought a new helmet every year for the past 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. Why am I doing it? Because I haven't found the perfect helmet yet. And in fact, my helmet I used last season, I threw it away because I rode it to MMM. The inside smelled bad, whatever. I had Sugru to mount on it for my camera. It wasn't going to be good for anybody, and you shouldn't sell your helmet to anybody, a used helmet to anybody anyway. But it wasn't a helmet for me that held any emotional value. Some people keep their helmets as their, kind of like trophies or whatever. I threw it away because I didn't want any part of it anymore. I had graduated beyond that helmet. I took a Dremel tool and cut some of the lining out of the inside of it, not the lining, but the styrofoam out of the inside of it, so I could fit my speaker pods a little bit better for my communication in it. And it wasn't good for anybody. So I threw it away. Reflecting, maybe should I have kept it? Maybe I should have, because I cut my motovlogging teeth in that helmet. Mm-hmm. So maybe I should have kept it, but you know what? I didn't. And I don't regret that. I try not to look back on decisions I've made as with regret either. You know what I mean? I kind of focus moving forward. So the helmet I used this last season, again, it was a good helmet I used for this season. I won't throw this one away. I'll keep it. Yeah, there's some things I really like about it, some things I really don't. I haven't found the perfect helmet yet. The very first
gear's a rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh, man. Right? The very first
helmet. You've got like 4 jackets and 2 pairs of boots, and
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and I've purchased new boots the last few years too, and the ones I have now are kind of more shoes than they are boots. They're they look like boots, but they don't offer a crazy amount of protection. But I tell people can criticize all the time. Like you see somebody riding in Vans and they're like, oh, you're going to lose your foot. It's subjective. I got into a motorcycle accident when I was a kid on the back of a Harley in Southern California. And the only reason I'm alive is a helmet, right? Boots wouldn't have saved my life. The gear did not save my life. The helmet saved my life, right? I fell backwards off the back of the motorcycle. When I pulled the chin strap on the helmet, it fell off my head in 2 pieces. Without the helmet, dead. I would have been dead at 10 years old.
No, absolutely.
So, I mean, you say what you want. And there's a million accidents that, you hear people that, well, they survived, but their whole body is broken because they were wearing a helmet or what, it's situational, man. You just never know. You never know when your number gets called, whether or not that accident is going to be something that you survive, don't survive. How bad are you going to be hurt? That's subjective. How fast are you going? Were you hit? Did you hit somebody? Were you rear-ended? I mean, there's a million different things that can happen.
Well, and I think too, it's all about risk assessment.
Anything in life is, right?
Yeah. You have to decide what the like I wear a half helmet when it's really hot. Well, like I'm talking like in the upper 90s. Is it more dangerous? Yes. Is it better than not wearing a helmet? Absolutely. But again, it's what works for you.
Yeah. When I first started riding, in fact, on my Vulcan, I bought the smallest helmet I could find. It was like a crown. I mean, it was the tiniest thing ever. And honestly, I bought it because I thought I was cool. Mm-hmm. And then what I realized getting a full face helmet was you don't have wind fatigue. You have much more protection. And if you do your research, injuries that happen from motorcycling most oftentimes happen to your face. Mm-hmm. And that's what a full face helmet. That's what a full face helmet is going to protect. But for the distance riding and the things that I really love doing, a full face helmet is the only way to go. There's wind fatigue and bugs and road debris and all this other stuff that your helmet is absorbing that you're not getting any part of.
Well, and that's I've had that conversation with Katie too, is that you go into a store as a new rider and you go, there's this $100 helmet and there's this $700 Schuberth or, $1,000 Rye, and it's very hard to justify. But if you become an all day rider, that little thing in the boots, the gloves, the jackets will drive you insane versus having something that's more comfortable.
And what I would tell anybody, and you've probably experienced this yourself, what I would tell any new rider is don't buy that $1,000 helmet. Buy the $200
I made that
helmet.
Mistake.
Yep. Buy the $200 helmet. Find out that you love riding and that helmet sucks, and then spend the money on a more expensive helmet and find the one that works for you, because the helmet that works for you, Bry, may not be the helmet that works for me, may not be the helmet that works for somebody else. And the same thing goes for gear, right? People, say, oh, you're dressed like a pirate. You have leather. I have a leather jacket and I wear chaps. And you know what? I have found those things to be very comfortable for me riding. I like the wind protection. I like the warmth that they provide, but that's this area of the country that I ride in. If you told Mary, who, the Geared Raven, who was on your show the last time, that she had to wear a leather jacket and chaps every time she rode, she'd tell you to jump off a cliff, because she rides in Florida where it's 80 degrees or higher all the time, right? I only have a window of about, I would say 6 weeks where I don't wear some form of leather on my body that is fully protective and or to keep me warm, because most of my riding is done when it's colder.
Yeah. And I was against the whole leather idea until I tried it. And then when you try it, you're like, okay, there's a reason for this.
And it's not for everybody. Again, it's just,
No.
you know, because they do make textile gear and all kinds of stuff that is just as protective, that is just as wind resistant, but it's not for everybody. So you have, again, it goes along with you. You have to find what you are comfortable wearing and what you like to wear. It's kind of like you said at one time about traveling to Harley dealerships and buying a t-shirt and buying a poker chip, right? I do that at every dealership that I go and visit. It's not because I want a closet full of Harley shirts that's the only thing I'm going to wear. I do it as marking a passage of time. It's like a tattoo for some people. You know, I want to be able, when I can't ride anymore, I want to be able to go to that jar and pull out my chips and pull out the chip that says, you know, Harley-Davidson dealership in New Jersey, and remember the time that I went and saw Bry the Biker. Like that's what I want to be able to look back on. I
think that's good marketing too, because you know, it's a $2 chip, right? Or $3 chip. You know, it's not a $30 t-shirt, which is, you know, another rabbit hole we won't go down. But
right.
But no, absolutely. So we've skirted around this for too long. Let's talk about the 5 dirty bikers.
Let's do it.
Now, I didn't like the last one I spoke to, so you're still my favorite. That's not true, Mary. I love you to death. I'm only kidding. So you're part of the original crew of the 5 dirty bikers. So how did that come about?
So
anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm going to put links in all the description. So I just wanted before we forgot.
No, we're good. So what we're talking about is the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast. The people that are on the inside know it as FDB. So it started as a idea that was not ours. It started from another motovlogger that kind of put us together all in a group chat, and just people that he thought would really get along well. And we all did. We all clicked. Our personalities clicked, and we were talking in this group chat, and this group chat just was like, it was like firing shots the whole time. So we were laughing and it was so much fun. This group chat was, and you know, one of our original members said, "Hey, we should do a podcast." And so he called us all individually and said, "Would this be something you're interested in?" And we all decided, "Yeah, let's do it." And we jumped on board. And, you know, some of us were skeptical. Some of us didn't think it would last. Some of us thought, oh, this is going to be a flash in the pan. But ironically enough, we really clicked. We put out about 13 episodes. One of our original members left. And the other part of it was really shaped around the Midwest Moto Meetup. And so we started communicating about the Midwest Moto Meetup, and that was 2 other people's idea. We started communicating about it and putting our brains together and talking about it. And because I don't want to take credit for it, the Midwest Moto Meetup was not my idea. It was not my brainchild. And then it kind of morphed into, you know, the podcast. And then ironically enough, the name of the podcast came from my wife. We had done, I think we had recorded 2 or 3 episodes. We had not come up with a name. And my wife had been listening to us talk and certainly hearing my side of the conversation. And she said, you guys are just a bunch of dirty bikers. And so the reason why we named it that was it's truly a pun. If you know any of us, we all have, you know, good jobs and families, and we're married. And so it was kind of a joke. It was really like a play on words that we were dirty bikers when indeed we were just, you know, like normal people. Right. And so that was the name of it. There was 5 of us from the very beginning. We put out 13 episodes. One of our original members wasn't feeling it anymore. Whether it was burnout or whatever, I don't want to speak for him, so I can't. And I don't want to try. And he left the podcast. And the other 4 of us decided we wanted to continue going on. But at this point, we're 13 episodes in. We had gained a following. We had gained viewers. We had gained all these things. And we had started the Discord. The Discord was growing. It wasn't huge yet, but it was growing. And we decided, well, we want to keep the name. We branded it already. It already had a place. It already had been shortened to FDB. Everything was kind of rolling. And so we were like, well, we need a 5th. And I had mentioned to Tony, I said, you know, maybe we should bring a woman into this podcast. And Tony's like, you're fucking crazy. Like that's just, that's insane because we are horrible in how we talk, and it's not going to happen. And so I said, well, let's just kick it around. So we had already lined up some guests after one of our members left, and we were going to continue on for a while with 4 of us until we found a replacement. And we had Tom, Dirty D's, and Mary the Geared Raven on together. So there was 6 of us on. We did an episode, and Mary was fantastic. She just knocked it out of the park. And she was already in a group of women kind of doing their own thing, doing live streams on YouTube and that kind of stuff. And we didn't want to interfere with that. So Tony reached out to Mary and said, hey, we'd like you to fill in for a month. And so Mary said, absolutely, I'll do it. And so immediately he added Tony. Tony added Mary to our group chat. And we started on our group chat. And the group chat is where a lot of our podcast stuff comes from, is this group chat, because we talk all the time. Every single day we talk to each other, holidays, weekends, the middle of the night, we talk to each other all the time. And so she was in the group chat, and we had decided very early on, all of us had individual conversations. I talked to Tony, I talked to Dustin, I talked to Mike, and we said, the only way this is going to work is if we continue to be ourselves. We can't not be ourselves, because that's what people are liking. That's what we like doing. And so it has to fit kind of that mold. And so very early on, and I said this in our 2020 wrap up, Mary kind of checked us really early on and said, this is not about, you guys putting me on a pedestal or treating me any different. And so when she always says that we treated her as an equal from the very beginning. There was some trepidation on our part, but because she was so responsive to that, that was what really shaped, many of the things moving forward. And so Mary came in and opened our podcast up to a whole new female rider audience, I think, that we didn't have before. Mary is hyper organized. She's really good at some social media things that we were kind of maybe not so organized with. She was really good at telling us what viewers connected to and found important that maybe we weren't thinking about from just a different perspective. And just was a fantastic addition to our podcast. And I think it's been said by Tony and other people on our podcast got better when Mary joined. Again, not to disparage one of our original members, but I think having a different perspective on our podcast was really good.
And it adds a completely new dynamic to it too.
Yeah,
not just a bunch of dudes,
right? And she fits in well too, because she is able to be, just as crass as the rest of us, but also bring her perspective, her unique perspective as a female rider, which is what we really like. And so our Discord has grown. So those of you that don't know, 5 Dirty Bikers has a Discord. So you can go to our website.
I have to do it. How much is it?
It's fucking free.
It's free.
It's free. So yeah, so you can go to www.5dirtybikers.com and you can find a permanent link to our Discord you can click on that link that will get you into our Discord, and it's free. And the Discord has really become this unique community that has grown. And for those of you that don't know, it's time for me to play the opposite role of Bry. This is Bry's show, but I'm gonna plug Bry for a minute. So Bry joined our Discord very early on. I think you joined our Discord after Mary joined our podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, but Bry joined our Discord very early on. I would venture to guess we had probably under 50 members when Bry joined.
Yeah, so, it was pretty small.
Yeah, it was pretty small, but I would consider Bry an OG in our Discord. Certainly, from my perspective, Bry's an OG. And so he joined our Discord very early on. And, and Bry brought a unique thing too, which was making sure that we were welcoming every person to our community. Bry became kind of the Walmart greeter of our Discord very early on. And now every one of our members has picked up on what Bry started. So I want everybody to know, and I'm going to go out there and say this, that this was Bry that did this. He welcomed every new member after he joined to our Discord and said, who you are, who are you, where are you from, and what do you ride? and just welcomed everybody. And now that is a thing that everybody in our Discord does. When somebody joins, you're going to get welcomed by 5 or 10 people that are going to welcome you to the Discord.
And I think that
the 5 Dirty Biker Discord is fucking free. So
I mean, it's a great community, and I think that it's like any community, you know, it's online, so it has its difficulties, but I think it's a great way to talk to people. Like, I take that back. I ride with Misplaced Motovlogger Frank. I've ridden with him once.
okay.
But other than that, I don't have local riders to ride with. So it's a great way to meet people and to sort of share ideas. Because I mean, there's not a night you can't get on there and be like, yo, I got a problem, and somebody knows something.
Yep. And it's going to, we have multiple channels in here. So we have a wrenching channel. We have a parts for sale channel. We have a couple of new things that are fairly new to season 2. One of them was completely started by Bry. He reached out to me and reached out to our admin NetShark and said, what would you guys think of a kind of a community, mental health check-in channel?
That actually was his idea.
Okay.
Everybody keeps giving me credit for it. And I got to tell you, and Matt's awesome. I don't ever want anyone to think that,
let's not take this guy to death. Yeah. Let's not take this away from Matt. So Matt is our NetShark.
Matt's is the man.
Yeah, he is our admin on our Discord, and Matt doesn't get paid or anything like that. He does it because he loves our community, and we love Matt. So
love Matt to death.
Yeah, so Matt brought this idea forward. Bry, I think, kind of spearheaded it through me on our channel, and
that I'll take credit for.
yeah. You did spearhead it through me. And I said, you know what? I'm not even going to ask. I did not ask our other counterparts. I said, yeah, let's do this because I like the idea. And so we started a mental health channel on our Discord, which I think has probably become one of the more popular channels on our Discord, where you can check in, you can tell people how you're feeling. It's a little bit less, I don't want to say policed, because we do have rules on our Discord. So if you do join the Discord, I encourage you to read the rules, because if you break them, we'll check you. If you continue to break them, we'll boot you. And that's just because we want the Discord to be a safe place for everybody. And we're going to keep it that way. So if you do join our Discord and you're an asshole, you're going to get booted without a doubt. I will boot you myself.
But how much does it cost?
But it's fucking free, so don't worry about it. So you can join the Discord, and then we also, again, what I touched on earlier about our responsibility to the community, again, another one of our community members, Todd on a Motorcycle is his name. He came with me, didn't come with me, but he met me in South Dakota, and rode with me for a few days out there. And while we were out there, he said he had this idea of, what about making it easier for new riders to get into motorcycling? And I said, what's your idea? And he said, what about starting a mentor channel? So this is fairly new. Our mentor channel has just dropped in the last probably, I would say 30 days. Our mentor channel is, the idea has been out there for a couple months, but the channel is actually active in the last 30 days. You can go on there. You can find somebody that's agreed to be a mentor. You can find somebody in your region, out of your region. Really, what we want you to do is find a mentor that is that you connect to. I don't care if they're in your region or not. And you can reach out to this person. By being a mentor, they've agreed to walk you through the process. If you want to buy a new bike, if you're looking to connect with the community, if you want to find somebody to ride with, if you want to ride with them, whatever the case may be, we want to open up the doors to people in the community, maybe that are a little bit afraid of getting into the community, or they're finding it difficult to be in the community. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's our idea in the 5 Dirty Bikers. It's our give back, right? So we have these two kind of separate things. We have our mental health channel, and we have our, it's a mentor. like a mentor kind of and again, I don't want this to be a situation where you feel like you're connecting with somebody that is gonna, this is not a person that's going to co-sign a loan for you, right? They're gonna,
Oh no.
they're going to talk you through a process. They're going to help you, get started. Or say you found somebody in your area and you're like, hey, I want to go to this Harley dealership, but I've gone in there a couple times and I'm totally freaked out. Can you go with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be the kind of person that we would hook you up with, that you could go to and feel, more legitimate going in with somebody, and feel a little bit less threatened by the environment. And I can tell you that if you get in our Discord and you exchange information with people and you open up a little bit and you're honest and you're a good person, you are going to find a community of riders that will absolutely open arms accept you. And I want everybody, and I want everybody else that's listening out there to know something. This is not a Harley-centric community. I ride a Harley and that's what I love, but this is not a Harley-centric community. We have people that ride all different kinds of bikes in our community and in our Discord, and routinely are part of that community that are not exclusive to Harley-Davidson. We also we don't have a lot of them, but we do have some fairly active members that are female. We have a Moto Blonde that is a female rider and a motovlogger. We have Whit Mesa, who's a female rider and a motovlogger. We have Mary, one of our...
Wait, we need to stop. Whit Mesa, miss, I did an iron butt on a Sportster.
Right.
She needs the mental health check-in. We got to worry about it.
Yeah, she did an iron butt.
Wow.
She rode Needles Canyon. She rode Sturgis. She rode the Tail of the Dragon. I mean, that girl she put on some miles last year. I'm going to guess
100% legit.
Yeah, somewhere in, I would say, upwards of 20 to 30,000 miles last year. Yeah, she's legit.
On multiple bikes.
On multiple bikes. She rode Indians, she rode Harleys, she rode touring bikes, she rode, just all kinds of bikes. So yeah, that girl is legit for sure. And she's a photographer. So if you need wedding pictures, hit her up. She lives in the Wisconsin.
Plug everybody. We can cover anything. You need catering, we got it for you.
Yeah, plug everybody. No, so we do have male and female riders on there. I'm fairly to mostly certain one of our mentors is a female rider. In fact, I'm pretty sure she is. And so we've got people on the East Coast. We've got people in Central United States. I don't know we have a lot of covers on the West Coast quite yet, but we'll get there.
We have international. We have his name escapes me. He was on the last mental health call, the Zoom call. He's from Australia. Yes,
Gas Man.
Yes.
Yep. Well, and we have a few people on our Discord that are from So we have representation from Russia. We have representation from the UK, Dad and Mad from the UK. We have Australia, Mud Pie Mud Pie. What's the rat? I don't remember the rest of his name.
I know you're talking about, but I don't. Yeah.
Yep. And and he's on YouTube too. He's from Australia. We've got people on from New Zealand. We've got people on from all over the country and all over the world. And so, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to brag about what we've done. We are in a community building phase of this whole journey, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So we have riders. We have quite a few riders actually from Texas that are on our channel. And so yeah, it's been great, and we are fully ingrained and involved in support those that support you. So you will see that on our channel. You can join the 5 Dirty Bikers Patreon. That's also on our website. You can go there and support the 5 Dirty Bikers Patreon and become a part of what we do when we do podcasts. We have guest people come on our podcasts. We have builders that are part of our Discord.
Speaking of which, we can't let this go. Show everybody your shirt and let's talk about it.
So I'm wearing a Weems Motoco shirt right now. And Jared Weems is a builder who lives in Florida. He is giving away a Triumph motorcycle that he built with his own two hands, and 100% of the proceeds from that. Yeah, it's an amazing bike. And it's a David Mann replica. So David Mann, if you don't know who he is, he's a very famous motorcycle painter from the 70s and 80s. David Mann has passed away. and he was featured on a ton of motorcycle magazines for years and years and years. And he only did 2 Triumph motorcycles his entire time of painting motorcycles. The first one that he painted is the replica bike that Jared Weems did, and he did basically a full replica built bike of that David Mann bike that he's auctioning off, and he built that with his own 2 hands and with his own money. And then 100% of the proceeds of that, he's raffling that bike off, is going to the Forgotten Angels charity, Forgotten Angels Florida charity. And so you can go to his website. You can go to the Forgotten Angels website.
I'll put
Florida,
it up.
And you can
I mean, if you're watching this, even if you can just buy a ticket, just one ticket. I mean, they're 25-hour tickets, but the money's going to kids that really need it, kids that have basically been abandoned. And I said this before, if you drink Starbucks, just don't drink Starbucks for a week, and there's your $25, and you can buy a ticket for it, and you can possibly win a bike. He's raised, I'm pretty sure, over $40,000 at this point, and he's giving 100% of that again to the Forgotten Angels charity. For those of you that don't know, the Forgotten Angels charity is a charity that's completely designed and set up to help young men that age out of the foster care program. So if you don't know what happens in foster care when you turn 18, literally on your 18th birthday, the foster care program stops paying your foster parents and you're out essentially on the streets. And so what this program does is it gives them a place to stay. They teach them basic life skills. And what I mean by that is cooking, cleaning, doing your laundry, learning how to feed and clothe yourself. Then they teach them a skill. So they teach them a blue collar skill that they can use at any time, welding, mechanics, electrician, something that is literally a skill that you can have, HVAC, whatever it is, right? So they're going to teach you a skill. And then if you want to go to college or whatever, they're there to help you start your life outside of the foster care system. And so, yeah, it's a fantastic program. And Jared Weems is one of the most amazing individuals I've been able to come in contact with through the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast and through what we've been doing. And so if you don't mind, I would like to do another shameless plug. For those of you that don't know, we also have a Patreon. And I know I don't want to make it sound like I'm asking for money, because I'm absolutely not. We use a Patreon to support what we do. And one of the things that we do on our 5 Dirty Bikers podcast is that we're giving 100% of our February Patreon money to the Forgotten Angels charity. And so if you feel like you want to join our Patreon, please do. We have different tiers of our Patreon. You can join those, and to know that a portion of that is going to this Forgotten Angels charity. In fact, all of our February money is going to the Forgotten Angels charity. Yeah, and I think that just speaks to what the biker community has brought in me. It's just amazing the amount of people that will give back of their time.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about that. And then, since we're on the topic, go on our website. You can read a little bit about us. Fair warning for the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast is not your grandmother's podcast. You're going to hear a lot of words that are maybe of the 4-letter variety. My favorite word's fuck, just in case you're wondering. You can bleep that out if you want, Bryce.
Wait, I'm going to do Tony. It's never going to make the podcast. Mike.
Yeah, for sure. Right. But
that's funny.
Yeah. So, we do a lot of our podcast is based around humor. But we do have guests on. We do have legitimate people from the motorcycle industry. We most recently had a legitimate 1980 skateboard icon on there. So that was really awesome. We've had builders on. We've had different motorcycle industries, or not industries, but companies in the industry. So Custom Dynamics has been on there. Wild Ass,
$500 gift card.
Yeah, we gave away a $500 gift card from Custom Dynamics. So so we're really kind of growing that podcast and growing the community. So in case you didn't know, the Discord is fucking free. So get out there and get on the Discord. Yeah. So
wait, you guys have a Discord?
Yeah, we do. And it's fucking free.
Okay. Wait,
Yeah.
we also have to talk about Dustin's charity.
Yeah, and so and Dustin does a couple of different things, and so for those of you that don't know, Dustin has a son with autism, and so he has done charity work for Autism Speaks, and I believe this season he'll be choosing another autism specific charity, and if all things go well, we will be doing the Midwest Moto Meetup in 2021 in Louisville, Kentucky, and what we did last year, what we had on our agenda, and we'll do it again, is that we get Matt from Burnt Up Wood Burning to burn us a logo specific to our event, and we will auction that off at the event. Likely what we'll do is sell raffle tickets for that. And so if everything holds true and it all holds true like it was going to last year, you can find Bry or you can find Kate, and they are going to be the caretakers of not only the plaque, but selling tickets for us at the event so that we can raise as much money for Dustin's charity. And he has, like I said, supported Autism Speaks in the past. We don't know what his new charity will be, but likely very something that supports autism or autism education, something around those areas, because Dustin has gotten a lot of help from the autism community for his son and his family. So,
and it's well deserved. I mean, it's amazing that this community you can find anything in that support network. I mean, there's just people that can do anything. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered everything else. So we can find you on the 5 Dirty Bikers. We can find your YouTube channel, and I'll put links in the description for that. Instagram, you're almost cracking 1,000 too, right?
Yeah. I'm real close to. I'm about 918 or something on Instagram, 915
nice
on Instagram, and 942 on YouTube. So yeah, if you find it in your heart to get out there and check out my content, I'd love to have you join the community and like and subscribe and do all those things, because that supports what I do. And again, it's just about building that community. If you don't want to do that, join the Discord. If you don't want to do that, you can straight fuck off. You knew I had to say that, Brian. Come on.
Wow. Okay. And on that note, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you'd please consider subscribing, give this a big thumbs up. Tell Ryan he's very angry and he needs to work on that. Hit the notification bell. We're still going to be doing probably a weekly episode of Behind the Rider, as well as my regular content and reviews. So I'd appreciate it if you'd follow along on this adventure. And until next time, we will see you when we see you. Peace.
We're out.
We're out. It's dope. We're out. Peace. See you.
What?
What?